it's Bob from Full Reps, and the issue of the day here is being careful with your Dr. Google, right? Differential diagnosis on YouTube, differential diagnosis on Google, because when you have a problem and you search for it online, there are a lot of ways to go wrong with that. And sometimes you hit the jackpot and go right, but I want to give you a tangible example just on how and why to be very careful with this. Let's say you have hip pain on the side of your right leg, right? You put in a Google search and it comes out sciatica. It comes out hip tendonitis or hip bursitis. Two very common problems. But what you actually have with a thorough mechanical assessment is, in physical therapy or otherwise, is that we find out you really have iliotibial band friction syndrome, or they would call it ITB tendonitis, tendinopathy. So that's really the problem, your IT band. But you type in your symptoms and it comes out with the wrong diagnosis altogether. So that's one way to go wrong. You got the diagnosis completely wrong and now you're barking up the wrong tree. And it happens in the life of physical therapists and medical doctors. We get the other end of this all the time. It happens. Okay, so there's a lot of great videos on that, but there's also a lot of really bad videos and a lot of good content and a lot of bad content. So now let's say that you have the diagnosis right. Let's say you happen to get the right diagnosis, IT band tendonitis, all right? You can still very easily go wrong with the treatment that's not what you need, right? So if you do type in IT band tendonitis or iliotibial band friction syndrome, you're gonna get 1,000 videos on foam rolling and stretching the IT band. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of clients that I work with that helps very transient, very short term. What really helps that is the right strengthening exercise and paying attention to frontal plane alignment at the foot and the pelvis and the hip and your core strength. So you're gonna have all these stretches when what you really need is the right strengthening program. And there's very little on that when you type it in a YouTube search or Google search. I've tried it. Okay, so that's number two. You got the diagnosis right, but the treatment's completely off, okay? And then the third way that's really easy to go wrong, and it happens, is let's say you happen to get into a good video, not all the bad information, but you got into the good information on the correct diagnosis, so you got two things right. But now, let's say you have a really acute case of tendonitis that's very sensitive, and you get strengthening exercises, but they're way too aggressive. You're in the stage of healing where you need gentle, I call it wimpy rehab, some non-weight bearing exercises, non-impact exercises to kind of get the ball rolling and get it to heal up a little bit. And what you're doing is lunges and squats and maybe running drills when that's way too soon. And on the other hand, right, maybe you're over that acute phase where it's really sensitive and you're still doing these wimpy little leg raises and things like that, TheraBand exercises, when you really need things that are more functional, weight bearing, that really replicate the demands of your activity in sport. And that's like making the transition from rehab to sports performance, where you get those heavier exercises. And there is a time for that before you go back to functioning full tilt. So the last error there is that you have the right diagnosis, the right information, but the wrong timing. So please understand that. That's why we do what we do in physical therapy. We really try to match all those things for your specific needs. Okay, thanks.